One thing I can say about this question before I even look at the choices is I'm not really happy about choices A and B. They both mean kind of the same thing. They're both words that imply a contrast. They kind of mean but. So, well, it's possible that maybe there's a slight enough difference that one of them could be right and the other wrong. It could happen, but in general on the SAT, it's not a good sign. So it probably means that these are both wrong, because if they have the same meaning, how would we be able to determine which one is right or which one is wrong, right? They can't both be right, so they must both be wrong. But let's not cross them out yet. Let's just get some confirmation based on the sentences. Archaeologist Sue Brunning explains why the 7th century ship burial site at Sutton Hoo in England was likely the tomb of a king. First, the gold artifacts inside the ship suggest the person buried with them was a wealthy and respected leader. Can I just say second here? Second, the massive effort required to bury the ship would likely only have been undertaken for a king. Well, am I just being kind of trapped here because first and second seems right? Let's just make sure. First, the gold artifacts inside the ship suggest that the person buried with them was a wealthy and respected leader. So, okay, that's some sort of example of evidence. The massive effort required to bury the ship would likely only have been undertaken for a king. So specifically is something we would use if we were trying to give an example, but we're not giving an example of like the artifacts. So that wouldn't fit here. I mean, I guess it's possible they could do a first and then give us an example and never tell us the second thing because it's only like a fragment of a longer passage. But yeah, that doesn't make sense here. This is just like a separate example, or a separate reason, I should say. We know that the ship was for a king for 2 reasons. It had a lot of expensive stuff, and then it would have been expensive to bury it. Those are 2 ideas, so first and second make sense. There's definitely no reason for a contrast, so my initial hunch was correct, that because these 2 words both mean the same thing, they were probably both going to be wrong. But even beyond that, they're both wrong because there's no contrast here. These are both reasons that are kind of like proving the same point. So they're similar, not different. So you don't always need to do what I did to start, but I think it does help you to be able to kind of group words into categories so you can kind of quickly make sense of them rather than kind of worry about the nuances of all their definitions. Just like the transition words are very repetitive. So the categories are going to be consistent. Even if the words themselves change, they still fit the same basic categories.